Kevin Hunter with Dave Ford on the Business Forum Show, and our guest is Allyson Lindstrom from Tastefully Simple. Welcome to the show, Allyson.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about what you did before you got into this business. What's your business background?
As far as a business, I didn't have much of a business background. I worked in social work for about 10 years.
Okay. So talk a little bit about that. What got you interested in social work, and why do you think you were in that field?
Wow. Originally, I wanted to be a forensic pathologist. So I wanted to work in the criminal background. After I left college, I was originally hired to supervise a group home for young boys that had been adjudicated and were moving out of that place back into the public world.
Sure.
And that didn't really work out so well. I was transferred then to another home for little girls who had been abused.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just kind of went down that route. So I've worked with those girls. I've worked with adults with disabilities and families in poverty with young children.
So then you were in the middle of pursuing a master's degree, and along comes this opportunity with Tastefully Simple. What made you decide that you wanted to do this?
I had toyed around with the thought of direct sales as a fun thing to do for extra income, nothing very serious. I didn't know what Tastefully Simple was when I was invited to my first party.
Sure.
And then it just made a lot of sense. Everything was under $10. It was very affordable. It was food. We only sell to people who eat, so that works out really well. And it's consumable, so I realized I could have repeat business.
So you mentioned in here somewhere that you don't really consider yourself a cook necessarily, but you were a foodie. So how did what Tastefully Simple has, how did it fit into your lifestyle?
At that time, I had a growing family. My twins were 2. My husband traveled a lot. I've always loved to try new foods and go out to eat. I find it a great source of entertainment and connection. But I didn't know how to do it well, and families are busy, and I was busy. I needed to be able to come up with healthy meals for my family without spending a lot of time on it. So the fact that Tastefully Simple has products that require 2 or fewer ingredients, and you can be really creative with that, made a lot of sense to me, and it's brought me a lot of confidence.
So you started this in 2004. When did you actually transition to a full-time business with this?
That was about in 2008. At that point, we'd had 1 relocation. I'd had another child, so we had 3 children, and Tastefully Simple offered a trip incentive. And that incentive was to Orlando. And at that point, I decided, well, if I were really intentional with my business and how I worked it, I'd be likely to earn it. And I did. And I took my twins to Disney World for their 5th birthday.
Nice.
Yeah, that felt really nice as a stay-at-home mom. And at that point, I started attending trainings and conferences and learning more and putting what I learned to work, and it worked, and I really enjoyed it.
Well, it sounds to me like you got a little why all of a sudden in front of you.
Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely.
As to get more serious. Dave, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, we were talking about it before we started the show, as far as the biggest challenges that people have, and it's really understanding, why you get up every morning and why do you do what you do. And, we're talking about, somebody that can do Tastefully Simple, and it's a home-based business and it's selling. And, I've got a lot of background in sales. I've been doing sales for the last 15 or 20 years. Yeah, this will be no problem for me, except the challenge is you were doing sales before at a company where you were either getting paid a salary or you were getting paid a portion of salary plus a bonus, and you were the business was giving you the work direction. I mean, you had to get up every day, and I had to go into the office because that was your job, right? But when you start a business, especially a home-based business, that's not necessarily the case. You don't have hours, like you're not working 8 to 5, or you get up in the morning, and do you get up at the same time every day, and then what do you do? And it's all about whether you have to get up or not. That's the beautiful thing about this, is your success is a direct reflection of your desire for success. If you're not doing a whole lot, that just means you're
content with the status
quo.
That's
correct. Yes.
Absolutely. So, Allyson, you mentioned that one of the challenges or pieces that people in your business, obviously from the standpoint that you notice it, maybe sometimes have a difficulty in showing up for work. So talk about that a little bit.
Well, just like we were saying, your hours are not set for you. You have to, and I've learned to set my own business hours and to show up for work as if I were working for somebody else. You have to think of it as, are you going to hire yourself or fire yourself for getting your job done? And And it's important. At the same time, when you set those hours are equally important so that you're able to balance time with your family and time for taking care of yourself. It's important to set your hours and schedule not just what needs to be done, but when you're going to do it.
Well, now that you are, and you have been for some period of time running this as a full-time business, what do you see really as some of your challenges in business?
My personal challenges are that sticking to my hours and not being overly focused in one area or the other. Other challenges that I've had to overcome is really stretching my comfort zone. And I've moved 4 times with my business, and each time I've rebuilt my personal business faster, but that's because I've learned how to connect with people, to not be afraid of really it's our own perceptions of how others are perceiving us that hold us back. Am I being pushy? Should I talk to this person? Absolutely. If you can genuinely connect with someone, then they definitely want to talk to you and hear what you have to share.
Well, when we think about like living in your own community and being familiar with a group of people for many years, and some people still have a difficult time reaching out to people, you had to do this in 4 different communities over a relatively short period of time.
Yes.
And talk about a little gauntlet to learn personal skills, huh, Dave?
Well, and that's the biggest thing that goes into growth, though. When you look at your past history, at your life, where you've made the biggest changes, the biggest hurdles, where you've had the biggest growth, is usually right after where you went through the most difficulty, or where you went through the situation that caused you to get the most out of your comfort zone.
Sure.
And in most cases, that stuff isn't done voluntarily, as it's not she wasn't looking to move. Her husband, they had to move because of her husband's job. So that created a situation that forced her out of her comfort zone. A lot of times you look back at life and some of the most difficult things that you've gone through were something that circumstances led to. That's what you were going to have to go through. And you had to grow despite yourself. And the challenge is, as she said, it's continuing to stick through that. How do you intentionally grow? How do you continually do that on a daily basis to make yourself better without having, outside forces interact to force you out of your comfort zone?
And there's no question that what you described with having difficulty, holding yourself accountable to doing your job. I've voiced this to many people that have stay-at-home, at-home businesses, that you wouldn't just not show up for a meeting at work and say, I got busy doing the dishes or whatever. So don't do that to yourself in your home-based business either, and you'll find that the success that you get out of it will be something different. Kevin Hunter with Dave Ford here on the Business Forum Show. We're visiting with Allyson Lindstrom from Tastefully Simple. You can find her on the web, tastefullysimple.com/web/A Lindstrom. Kevin Hunter with Dave Ford here, and we'll be back in just a moment. Stay tuned.